If I'm going to start Shakespeare, should I do it here at the Globe? I mean, it's an authentic recreation, but it is a recreation. How about somewhere a little more less ostentatious? So this is a playhouse yard. It's an empty street. There's a big bank. There's some other firms. There was, in Elizabethan times, the playhouse. This is playhouse yard after all. Somewhere, probably within 50 feet of where I am now, William Shakespeare was acting in 1598 in a Ben Jonson play. The theatre on this site was the venue for the first ever performance of The Tempest. And it was the first proper indoor theatre. The performances in the evening were candlelit. And the candles didn't last the entire length of a performance. As it didn't last the entire length of the performance, the candles had to be changed, the play had to be stopped halfway through, and this is why we had intermissions in our plays. There's nothing to mark the spot other than the fact that the place is called Playhouse Yard. No plaque. Nada. Hello, my name's Gavin. This is Genre Books, and this is Shakespeare. Shakespeare is a month-long reading event from Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse, and Nicole at A Day of Small Things. I'm not following all of the prompts, but what I am doing is hopefully reading all of what are probably Shakespeare's least popular plays, the histories. Not that all the histories are unpopular. Henry V, Richard III are both staged frequently. But I can't remember the last time I saw King John in production, or Henry VIII. And those two plays are rather the bookends of the Shakespeare historical output. The majority of Shakespeare's plays tell one story, and that is the story of the lead up to and the War of the Roses. So you have Richard II, Henry IV 1 and 2, Henry V, Henry VI 1, 2 and 3, Richard III. Henry VIII is one monarch removed from that at the end. King John is a few monarchs removed at the other end. I'm going to be looking at the historical context. Well, when I say that, I'm just going to be reading some history books as well. But I do want to read around the history to refresh my A-level history that I did many years ago, so I have some better context for what I'm reading. But what I can do is take part in the Shakespeare Journey Tag, which is what I'm going to do today. This tag, I believe, was originally around last year, but I think it's going to be resurrected for those who didn't take part last year. Prompt number 1. What was your first experience reading Shakespeare and what was it like? It was really good. I can't remember which play it was. I think at the same time, at school, I was reading Macbeth for GCSE, and in my spare time, I was reading As You Like It because I was going to go to Stratford to go and see As You Like It. So I can't remember which I read first, but a tragedy, which was class based, in the school class, not class based, and a comedy where I think I was a little bit more adrift, not quite understanding everything, perhaps. I was definitely glad of the notes that I had, because I was reading them in the editions where it's explaining everything to you. Because I do remember struggling initially with the language, as you might expect, but after a certain point, it falls into place. But it's still handy to have those explanatory notes to give you some immediate context of what you're reading. But you never seem to need it when you go to see it at the theatre. Prompt number 2. Has the reading of a Shakespeare play ever brought you to tears? What scene was it, and where were you when it happened? It hasn't. It's not to say I don't have an emotional reaction to Shakespeare. It's just never brought me to tears. I think you get a lot closer to tears if you are watching it rather than just reading it. But yeah, not made me cry. Prompt number 3. Are there any people that have played a significant role in your Shakespeare journey? Yes. First, my mum, who likes her Shakespeare and made sure that I was given the opportunity to go to Stratford, to experience it, and that's what really introduced me to the Shakespeare world rather than just through the classroom. But then once I'm in the classroom, my teachers at A level, so I did English literature A level, definitely put me on that path. I had 2 teachers at the same time, and we were doing a play with each of them, and it was Richard III and King Lear, so it was all, the heavier stuff. But what my teachers did for me specifically was they had the opportunity to send a pupil from the school to a estate in Cambridgeshire called Villiers. Well, he was part of Villiers Park. I believe the site has now been sold on. But Villiers Park was an educational trust stroke charity. It now, I think, has an expanded remit to, it does all the stuff that you are expected to do these days with educational charities, encouraging leadership and technological advances and all this sort of stuff. In the early 90s, they were still in the mode of just getting some people from the comprehensive schools and sending them on a week and a half's course learning about Shakespeare and Chaucer, which is what I did. And it was brilliant. We had 2, they were studying at Cambridge, they were doctoral students of literature, obviously there to earn a bit of money, teaching the 12 of us highly motivated pupils from all over the country various workshops, readings, met some very interesting people, did some interesting stuff, and ended with a trip to London to go and see The Two Gentlemen of Verona. So, that was as a time out over one school holiday. That was brilliant, and I do thank my teachers for thinking of me to get me there. Question number 4. Do you have a favourite book or film about Shakespeare? I hope this will become it. This is something I am reading this month along with all of the plays, and this is No Bed for Bacon, by Carol Brahms and S.J. Simon. I've shown this book before on a couple of videos, but this is now crunch time. I'm going to be reading it. It's a comedy. It's a bit of a farce. Shakespeare appears as a character, and to be honest, I don't have many other books where Shakespeare does figure. I used to. I remember having a big old sort of glossy paper history of Shakespeare's life, which I think I got when I was in Stratford-on-Avon. But the thing about that is there's just so much in the way of gaps. When you're looking at Shakespeare's life, there is so much which is not known. And if I hear the anecdote about his second best bed one more time, I don't know what I'll do. And I can't really say that I've got a favourite paper that I ever read on Shakespeare or a study that I, really enjoyed, because I wouldn't be able to remember the name and I wouldn't be able to pick one out. Props number 5, and I've turned my computer on for this one because I wanted to find a quote. But it's, which character in Shakespeare most resembles you, and in what ways? And I was stuck on that question for some time. I'm certainly none of the heroes. I hope I'm not any of the villains. I might be the fool in any number of plays, but I'm going to go with Jakes, melancholy Jakes from As You Like It. There is a passage from William Hazlitt describing him, which I think, that's who I'm going to go for. It has been a long time since I read As You Like It, so I don't want anyone to read too much into anything, but there is something that William Hazlitt said about the character I quite liked, and that is that Jakes is the only purely contemplative character in Shakespeare. He thinks and does nothing. His whole occupation is to amuse his mind, and he is totally regardless of his body and his fortunes. He is the prince of philosophical idlers. His only passion is thought. He sets no value upon anything but as it serves as food for reflection. He comes along not until, I think, the second act of the play, and he does nothing to further the plot. I don't think he has any significant action on the play at all, but he comes in, says some stuff, and then gives one of the best speeches in all of Shakespeare, which is All the World's a Stage. He praises Touchstone, the fool, and sees that as perhaps his true calling. So maybe I identify with him a little bit. Prompt number 6. Which play would you like to see performed in a theatre, and why? I think I would like to see a comedy, and I would like to see a comedy that I have not seen in the theatre, so I'm going to go for A Midsummer Night's Dream. I think the whole magical aspect of it works, or would work really well in the theatre. I've seen when the magical aspect of other plays, other Shakespeare plays have been performed, that's worked really well. So yeah, I think I'd really enjoy that. And it's a play that I think everyone knows a little bit about, and there is some genuinely comic moments in it which stay funny after 400 years. Prompt number 7. Which actor throughout history would you like to have seen play Hamlet whilst in his prime? And I had a number of thoughts about this. The majority of them not original. I would like to see Richard Burbage in his prime play Hamlet. He's the actor Shakespeare wrote the part for. I'd like to see Edmund Kean, so the Victorian actor. He seems to have gone down very well at the time. For the 20th century, you have the three biggies of British theatre: Gielgud, Olivier and Richardson. I would have liked to have seen any of those play Hamlet. All of these actors did play Hamlet, so I know that it would have been good because history tells us these were excellent. The same for Ian Charleson. He stepped in to play Hamlet at late notice when I think Daniel Day-Lewis had dropped out of the play. The play ran for 6 weeks or so, and everyone says how good it was. And Ian was dying. I mean, like literally dying. This was the late 80s. I think it's 89, perhaps 1990. He was suffering with AIDS and he died about 3 weeks after his last performance. But people who had seen him in the part, whether this is sentimentality coming about from what happened afterwards, I don't know, but people rave about it. So I would have liked to have seen that performance. Other people, I'm not sure whether they played Hamlet, but I'd like to see David Warner play Hamlet. Really rated him as an actor. People mostly know him when he's an older man in parts which aren't generally showing his sort of true range of talents, but he was a rising star, I think, for the RSC when a younger man. Peter O'Toole, I think he would have, I don't know if he played Hamlet, he must have played Hamlet, but he would have been good. I think a James Dean Hamlet would have been an interesting thing to see as well. But as I said, all of these choices are pretty conservative. We want to maybe try to think outside of the box. And it hit me. Muppets Hamlet. I'd watch a Muppets Hamlet. You get all the ham jokes with Miss Piggy to begin with. So Piggy as Ophelia, Kermit as Hamlet, Gonzo as Horatio, Sam the Eagle as Polonius, Pepe the Prawn as Laertes, Scooter as Fortinbras, and maybe get a couple of human actors in there as well to play Claudius and Gertrude. Statler and Waldorf could be Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Fozzie Bear is Yorick. It writes itself. I'm not sure that a 3.5 hour long kids film about the stuff Hamlet's about would work for the general audience, but this is wish list stuff. Prompt number 8: deliver your favourite speech or soliloquy from a Shakespeare play. Really? Okay. There was a few to choose from and stuff I went through, but I think I'm just going to have to go with something from Henry V. I think those are the most rousing speeches. So this is Act 4, Scene 3, just before the Battle of Agincourt. And they're outnumbered, the English are outnumbered. There's a little bit of worry in the England camp, and the king has to give a speech to rouse the troops. And the Earl of Westmoreland has just said, "Oh, that we now had here but 1/10,000 of those men in England who do no work today." And Henry catches him. "What's he that wishes so? My cousin Westmoreland? No, my fair cousin, if we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss, and if to live, the fewer men, the greater the share of honour. God's will, I pray thee, wish not one man more. By Jove, I am not covetous for gold, nor care I who doth feed upon my cost. It yearns me not, if men my garments wear. Such outward things dwell not in my desires, but if it is a sin to covet honour, I am the most offending soul alive. No, faith, my cause, wish not a man from England. God's peace! I would not lose so great an honour as one man more, methinks, would share from me. For the best hope I have, I do not wish one more. Rather proclaim it, Westmoreland, through my host, that he who have no stomach to this fight, let him depart. His passport should be made, and crowns of his convoy should be put into his purse. We would not die in that man's company, that fears his fellowship to die with us. This day is called the Feast of Crispian. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand a tiptoe when this day is named, and rouse him at the name of Crispian. He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbours and say, Tomorrow is St. Crispian. Then he will strip his sleeve, show his scars, and say, These wounds I had on Crispian's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot, but he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day, and then our names, familiar in their mouths as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son, and Crispian shall ne'er go by from this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered, we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he that today sheds his blood with me shall be my brother, be he ne'er so vile. This day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England, now abed, shall think themselves accursed that they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, while any speaks that thought with us upon St. Crispin's Day. Don't make me do that again. Prompt number 9. Do any of Shakespeare's plays intimidate you? If yes, which and why? Not until you make me read them out. I think the ones that intimidate me perhaps are the ones I don't know enough about the background story. So I will need, when I come at some point to read Troilus and Cressida or Pericles, I'm going to have to read about those characters. When I'm going for the histories this month, I know the basics of the story, but if I'm looking at King John, you only really know a few things about King John. He's played by Peter Ustinov as a cowardly lion in the Disney film. He was never as good as his brother. He is so bad that the barons make him sign a Magna Carta. And he dies from eating too many lampreys. There's the potted history of King John. There's got to be a lot more than that. What intimidates me is not knowing the full story. Prompt number 10. What tips would you give to intimidated readers coming to Shakespeare for the first time? I would say watch Shakespeare first, or listen to Shakespeare whilst reading. When you get the rhythm, it sounds so much more different than it reads. It makes so much more sense. And if something is lost on you, if you are watching, if you are listening, you don't have time to wonder why you haven't fully understood something. You're into the next action. Make it a good production, but that's the tip. If you want to enjoy Shakespeare, you've got to experience Shakespeare as it was intended to be. It's a play. Not that you don't get stuff out of reading it, but you just get so much more from experiencing it. And prompt number 11. What's your favourite Shakespeare play and why? I think my favourite is Richard III, and the reason why is Richard III. He's just fantastic. He's such a monster. It is obviously a piece of propaganda from Shakespeare, but he over eggs the pudding so much that I don't know that he raised questions maybe at the time of the audience thinking no one could have been that bad. But I don't think they would have found any sources in Elizabethan times or in the first days of James I's reign to tell them any different. He is so devious, he is so amoral, he is so uncaring, he is so greedy for the power that when you get the right actor playing him, it's an absolute delight to watch. You really do want to see him lose at the end. But at the same time, Shakespeare writes Henry Tudor so in such glowing terms that he's a little bit boring. There were so many I could have chosen for my favourite play, but I'm going to stick with Richard III. King Lear came close. I think it's because those are the two texts. I spent nearly 2 years with those texts. I haven't studied other plays as deeply as those two. Not that I don't enjoy them, but I think there's just something about Richard III, yet that I would watch that any day of the week. And that's the tag. Thanks to Kelly and Jason and Nicole for creating it, and I'll be sure to tag some other people. Apologies if you did it last year and I haven't seen it, but yeah, I think this is a fun one. Till next time,